RFK Jr. has made quite a splash recently, from environmental lawyer to returning to his Kennedy roots as a politician. But the media has no good things to say about RFK Jr. They say that he is a conspiracy theorist. They say that he has worms in his brain affecting his judgment. Well, today we're here to clear some of the fog about the things that RFK wants to do to overhaul America's health. It's not exactly a secret that America is an extremely unhealthy country, perhaps the most unhealthy country. For the Second World War in Vietnam, they instituted a draft. But now, 77% of today's youth could not qualify for that same draft because of health reasons. The media just constantly shouts and screams that RFK is a conspiracy theorist and has nothing good to say. But today I want to take a look at what he does have to say and see what he's going to do about the American health system. The first thing that RFK wants to do is test everything. There are a lot of things that the FDA takes for granted that they are safe, and we don't know for a fact that they are safe. So RFK wants to test them and make doubly sure that they are safe. He also wants to update our food standards. Mexico now has a higher food quality standard than the America does. In Europe and Mexico, they have banned glyphosate, which they spray on tons of crops as a weed killer. Glyphosate was originally developed as an antibiotic, and now we're spraying it on our food, and we are all getting the antibiotic effect from that chemical that they're spraying on all our food. It's definitely interesting that America is willing to turn a blind eye to such a blatant problem like glyphosate when countries like Mexico and Europe are banning it. It's not just Mexico and Europe that are having higher food quality standards than America. In Canada, if Kellogg's wants to sell a box of cereal, they have a different box of cereal that doesn't have certain colors and things because they are banned in Mexico. Things like Red 40 and tartrazine. Tartrazine, or yellow 5, is a byproduct of coal. And someone had that bright idea saying, hey, we have too much of this tartrazine stuff. What should we do? We should put it in our kids' cereal. It is a coal byproduct that is shown to cause cancer and other neurological damage, and yet we're still pumping it into our food. And who's eating the really, really colorful cereals? Well, it's mostly kids. There was a lady in Canada who went off-grid on a homestead in the wilderness of Canada because she wanted to live a more healthy and natural lifestyle. But the problem was she was drinking the water from the river. Now, most people think water is very safe to drink. A lot of people even think well water is completely safe to drink. And it is shown to not be safe. She was drinking tons of pesticides and chemicals, and she got extremely sick for years and years afterwards because she drank all that water, because they were spraying crops and trees upstream of her and it was coming down in the water. I would intrigue everybody to test your well water. Or you can go to the environmentalworkinggroup.com, where they have tested all the wells in America for chemicals. It is not just Flint, Michigan that has problems with lead. Now, something that the media pegs on RFK is wanting to get the fluoride out of the water, and he is the reason they are taking the fluoride out of the water, and because of that our children are going to have terrible teeth. Now, fluoride has shown to be quite toxic in our water, and it wasn't RFK who started the march away from fluoride. It was actually our own government. They started a study over 10 years ago that they just published now, and it's shown that, yeah, we shouldn't have fluoride in the water, and it's kind of toxic. A lot of the pesticides in the water have been shown to cause Parkinson's too. And RFK has quite the experience when it comes to cleaning up water and rivers. He was the one who cleaned up the Hudson River. It was one of the most polluted and disgusting rivers in all of America. And now it is one of the most productive rivers in terms of fish and wildlife in America. Another thing RFK wants to get rid of is seed oils. Recently, there's been a lot of memes circulating around it, but seed oils cause mass inflammation in the body and are the #1 cause of macular degeneration, which is eye problems, and crooked teeth. When they took seed oils and they brought them to indigenous tribes that had never been in contact with seed oils before, one generation, the generation that hadn't been exposed to seed oils, had perfectly straight teeth with no dentistry or anything. Then the generation that had been exposed to seed oils had mass crooked teeth, mass deformation of the jaw, and they had to have mass dental work done. In the 70s, McDonald's and other fast food chains were using tallow to fry their fries in. Tallow is wonderful for you. historically, the most prized part of an animal was the fat because it is so nutritious. And because of the structure of tallow, it is not causing mass inflammation in the body or macular degeneration or teeth problems or anything. Another thing that RFK wants to change is a lot of the things that we're putting into our animals. We put a thing into all American pigs called rapamycin. It makes the pigs like 2% bigger, which means you get a little more profit. Now, even China doesn't allow rapamycin. China grows pigs in America, and the ones that they ship back to China, they don't have rapamycin. But the ones that they sell to America, oh, they pump in all the American chemicals. RFK is also very against corruption. A lot of these agencies have been captured by people who are lobbying to them. It's quite interesting that countries like Mexico and a lot of the European countries have banned glyphosate when America just turns a blind eye. Now, I don't think that is just a coincidence when all of these major farming conglomerates want to make a tiny bit more profit. They're gonna lobby to the government to keep all these chemicals in place. In Canada, they spray all of the trees with glyphosate and a bunch of other chemicals to clear out the underbrush. But if they were to have a forestry service go in by hand and clear out all of the underbrush, you know how much profit they would lose? 1%. 1% of all their profit. Now, on a giant scale, that's going to be a lot more money, but still it is 1% for using all of these harsh chemicals when we could do it by hand and be clean. Another big thing that RFK is a proponent of is regenerative agriculture. Regenerative agriculture is using the systems that are already in nature to regenerate the soil without external inputs like fertilizer. By using a lot of systems like composting and rotational grazing, you can bring amazing life back to the soil. Somebody who is huge in regenerative agriculture is Joel Salatin. He is in Virginia, and he had certain pastures that were so bare that you could walk across the entire pasture without ever stepping on a piece of grass. And now that is such a lush field. When he tears apart the grass and puts his fingers through this soil, it looks like potting soil. It is incredible. And he hasn't used any chemicals or fertilizer or even shots in his animals in over 30 years. When you manage the animals correctly, not only do you get rid of disease so you don't have to put things into them, you also help the land grow back faster. And Joel Salatin was actually just asked by the current administration that is going to be going into office to be on the USDA board, which I think is an awesome thing because he really wants to create healthy food for the people, but he also wants to create healthy and productive land. Not all the people who are against RFK, because there are a lot of people who are. Are you against testing everything? Why shouldn't we test everything? We obviously aren't doing things right. We once were the healthiest country in the world, and now we are the most unhealthy country in the world. The obesity rates have skyrocketed more than any country. Our youth are very unhealthy. Most of them couldn't even get into the military if they wanted to. I think that this could be one of the largest and most impactful changes to America that we have ever seen. Well, thank you for joining me on this little adventure. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing and checking the video out up here. But other than that, I'll see you guys all later.